Howdy friends and welcome to my new video. Still with how not to tell. And today also we will not tell about grammar. Before we talk in details about the approach of grammar that we will adopt today, I want you to look at the picture and think of a suitable comment on it. Okay, now, what do you think that baby has made this particular type of language mistake? It's quite clear that this baby or this kid has seen something which has 4 legs and a tail, and his mother told him that this is a cat before. And then he made a hypothesis in his mind that anything that has 4 legs and a tail is a cat. When he came across a new situation which represents a problem for him, because this is the first time for him to see a dog, so he assimilates this to the old information, to the cat, depending on his first hypothesis that anything that has 4 legs is a cat. So this is the reason for which this mistake happens. Okay, now his mother stops him and says, "No, dear, this is not a cat, this is a dog." In order for him to understand this and to help him or to adapt with the hypothesis, the first hypothesis, he needs to think again or to rethink about his first hypothesis, to restate it, because now it doesn't work with the new situation. So he needs to adapt the hypothesis to the first situation, rethink about it, reorganize it, or what is referred to as restructuring. So we need to think and say, oh, not all things that have 4 legs and a tail are cats. There are other things. So this is restructuring. This restructuring is very important for him to understand the new information or to accommodate new information and integrate it into older ones. And this is what Piaget calls assimilation and accommodation. So this is the road we take while we are acquiring our first language, from assimilation to accommodation, passing by restructuring our mental or our hypothesis. Okay, now what does this all have to do with grammar or teaching grammar? Our approach today borrows this principle, borrows this idea from the process of assimilation and accommodation in order to replicate the way we learn our first language or we acquire our first language. Our approach today is called test, teach, test. We test the students before we teach them. Why? Testing before teaching? Yes. Why? First of all, to provide an opportunity for students to take risks and force them to make mistakes, then receive feedback which helps them to restructure their mental grammar and learn in order to accommodate that new information. This is one, assimilation and accommodation. The other thing, this is a kind of diagnostic testing to know, because not all the students have the same knowledge. Some of them know the form, but they are not quite sure about the meaning. Some of them know the form and the meaning, but they cannot produce the language fluently. So everything, everyone, every individual in the class has different need. So it's important for us when we teach grammar to respond to the immediate need of every individual, not teach everything to all the students. So these are 2 main advantages of this test. So what about this test, teach, test? How can we do this? How can we apply or employ this in class? So imagine that you have taught the past simple before, and now it's time to teach the past passive, past simple passive. When you ask students first, before you teach it, you ask students to do a task using or that needs them to understand the past passive, they will find that they assimilate it, or if they don't know it at all, they will assimilate it to the past passive in the active ones. So they will think that was attacked has the same meaning of attacked. Now this will result in mistakes. When they make mistake, the teacher will give feedback, then they will need to restate their mental grammar. Oh, was attacked is different from attack. There's a different meaning here. So what is the difference? So now they discuss and interact with other friends and with the teacher to understand the difference in meaning and in the form. So this is the main principle of this idea. For example, now if you are in class, how can you do this? So imagine that you will show the students these two pictures. Okay, I will show them the two pictures and ask them to analyze the two pictures and see how different they are from each other. So here the dog chased the cat and here the cat chased the dog. Okay, so now I will show the students two sentences, but the two sentences start with the cat. The situation is different, but the subject here is the same. So now this will force a student to think about the verb, the meaning of the verb, in order to match with the meaning of the picture, and this is taking risks with the language. Either students will know what to do, or will you make use of the clues, like by the dog, or by the cat, or whatever, or they will ask each other, help each other, or they will ask the teacher who guide them or leads them in the next stage, which is feedback or teaching in the form of feedback. So the teacher can ask this question. So for example, the cat in the first sentence, did the cat do the action or receive it? What about the second sentence? Okay, so what is the effect of this on the form of the verbs? So this is helping students or guiding them without telling. After that, students redo the task or do a similar task again in order to make sure that they have learned the new information or they got the idea of or the point of the activity. After that, you can do controlled practice or freer practice as you think or as you see, which is better for your students. So this is the main idea of test, teach, test. Thornbury here emphasizes the importance of two important elements here. Problematizing. So we need to problematize the task for our learners in order to force them take risks and make mistakes, to provide feedback and restructure. The second idea is the idea of scaffolding. It's important here when students take risks with the language that this happens under the supervision of the students, and the teacher provides as much help and support as he can to his learners. This is very important, scaffolding. Okay, now why is this approach effective, or why you think this is effective? First of all, students are responsible for their learning, which helps them to become more autonomous or independent afterwards. Number two, students find out the rules for themselves, and this is how what makes the language more memorable. Number three, this replicates the natural way we learn or we acquire our first language. So we learn our second language or in the same way we acquire our first language. Another important element here is that we respond to the immediate need for students. So we don't teach everything from A to Z to all the students who respond to their needs. So this is the main points of, or the main features of the test, teach, test, and this is how we can do this. Of course, the test can be anything. It doesn't have to be pictures and matching that you get film. It can be anything, or it can be speaking activity. And this approach is very similar to task-based learning, where students also do the task, then receive feedback, and then redo the task again. So this is all about test, teach, test. Thank you so much for watching. Hope it is useful. Thanks for watching, and meet you next week with another example of how not to test. Thank you and goodbye.